The least heard people have the most important things to say. Our stories come from Appalachia. Our home is West Virginia. Together, we are telling it like it is. Together, we are spilling the Black girl tea.
Welcome to Spilling the Black Girl Tea, a storytelling project featuring Black women who call West Virginia home. I'm Royce Lyden, and I'm your host for today's episode called Spaces and Places, in which we discuss how we navigate a variety of spaces, as well as how place has made us who we are. To tell you a little bit about myself, my name is Royce. I'm born and raised in West Virginia. I am a grandmother to 3 young ladies, 4 and under. And my favorite thing in the world is being a mom and being a grandma. And I love all things West Virginia. And there's just something about the hills that does something to my soul. Mm-hmm. And now I'll invite this episode's conversation partners to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Tasha Snyder McDonald, soon to be Cole. I reside in Charleston, West Virginia. I'm currently looking to step out and branch to the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, which is around Berkeley Springs area. My hobbies are actually pretty much singing, dancing, and any kind of advocacy work and running a nonprofit. And the things that bring the most joy to my life are my son, Zacchaeus William Snyder, and my fiance, Justin Coyle, and just my lovely melanated Black skin. I love every aspect of it. So yes, and if you don't see my color, then there's a problem. So
thank you, Kasha.
You're welcome.
Well, my name is Eileen Evans, and I am living currently at the headwaters of the Potomac River. I am an actor, dancer, singer, songwriter, director, writer, Chautauquan, and teacher. So I teach at Fairmont State University. I teach communication there. I've taught theater and dance almost all my life. And so weaving in the arts has been a creative constant for living as well as for work. And they do kind of fit together. My downtime, when I get to have it, is gardening. I like to be out in the outdoors. And one reason why I live on the edge of the wilderness at the beginnings of the river, where the river starts, and it just sings so quietly. Right now the river's low, but when it gets high, I start to hear the echoes that are going down by Berkeley Springs, and then on to DC, and then on into the ocean, and across the ocean all the way, because I did get to stand at Cape Coast Castle and do one of my programs, the one I do where I portray Harriet Tubman. And I looked back across the ocean, and I felt like that call of our people from one end of the waters to the other is very, very powerful. So that's a little about me.
Thank you, Ms. Eileen.
Hi, I'm Tiara Brown, a former broadcast journalist, but I'm still an independent journalist. I'm not currently working on any projects at the moment, though. Things that bring me joy is storytelling, helping others, listening to music. I'm learning how to play a banjo right now, kind of have that on pause, but getting my hands in anything that I can and learning more about West Virginia. I did not like it that much growing up. From Oak Hill, West Virginia, but since moving to Charleston, I've really seen what's accessible to me, that there are other Black people in West Virginia. And there's a lot that's going on here. There's a lot that's going on in the state. You just have to get out there and get your hands into it. So that's something that brings me joy, is just finding Blackness here and finding a way to make this an accessible place for everybody.
Hi there, my name is Oceana Smith. Everybody calls me Ocean. My pronouns are they, she, and I am from Tyler County, West Virginia, a tiny little county with one, count 'em, one stoplight in the entire county. I have since transplanted to Wheeling, West Virginia, and I'm really liking it. I have just recently graduated with my third degree from West Liberty. I now have a master's degree. Woohoo! In my free time, I do a lot of art, and that's all kinds of art, visual art, performing art. I am an artist at heart, and I'm also an educator at heart. So anytime I can kind of blend those together in the mission of social justice and equity and inclusion, I am all for it. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. So one thing that I heard that was common in your introductions is that you are all artists of some sort and that you've grown up in West Virginia. So tell me a little bit about how you develop your passion as an artist or how you fell into that passion.
Well, I think for me, it's all about expression. I mean, living in a state like West Virginia, especially in spaces where a lot of people don't look like you, art was one of my sole ways of expression and exploration in my identity. A lot of times we kind of foreclose on our identity before we have a chance to explore it. And art really gave me that avenue.
It was actually my my art as a child was always something that I had to have hidden. And when I moved to West Virginia, I got to explore my art and noticed that it was a big, tremendous light that everybody was seeing that I did not yet know that I had. And I say West Virginia made that happen. I mean, it made me stronger. It made me fearless. It made me, you know, be able to feel like, you know, because so many people think there's no Black people in West Virginia. I'm just like, that I haven't, or they don't even drive past West Virginia because they feel that there's no Black people in West Virginia. So, you know, just my art was always, like I said, a big cover up or a shield. But then when I got to West Virginia, you know, because I am the Tri-Cities baby, which is Ashland, Ohio, and West Virginia. And so I'm right here, born and raised, but then I transferred to West Virginia, and it's like culture shock, being able to just move and shake where you want to and live your life the way you want to. But it still is not all rainbows either.
No. I could piggyback on those things because I think it's through the arts that I have established a sense of what identity. We're talking about identity because growing up, there's people all around you. For some, you're not Black enough. For some, you're not white enough. For some, you're not feminine enough. For some, you're too masculine. You speak too proper. You don't walk properly. You, whatever it is, or the terms that they give to you are trying to define you, sometimes to control, but also there's a surge, I think, as a young person to understand if any of that is true and to what degree those things could be or are not true, and then what is true. And I think for me, art has allowed me to find that as a woman, I am very strong. Whatever other people think. As a dancer, it was the only place I really experienced power, where I could move with exerting a muscular energy to match any man, doing lifts, being able to lift other women, being able to do the unexpected in service to story, in service to clarity, in service to establishing a sense of identity.
Yeah, for me, my art is storytelling at the top. And as Eileen said, it's all about showing that identity that you have and showing and exposing things that need to be exposed in order for you to have a greater understanding. Without the ability to know that, you know, there are more people like me out there. For instance, Black by God is a newspaper that I worked for when I was in Charleston the first couple of months, and I was able to share stories about people that looked exactly like me. And it was beautiful, it was healing, and I was like, I have to continue to do this because journalism just in general is something that just allows people to have a further understanding of who you are or how they can help each other. But when you can tie that to something that you're deeply connected to, like your hometown or your identity, it's just, there's so much power to it. And you can get extremely creative in how you share those stories too, through poetry, through your art and what you create, and being able to compile that and share it in a newspaper, which I think is art in itself. We pass it out during Multifest, which is just, that is just the most artistic thing that I've ever been to, and the blackest thing I've ever been to in West Virginia. So just seeing how all of that kind of just interconnects with one another, that's what made me even more passionate in choosing this as my form of art to really anchor down into. But in terms of banjo and music, Charleston's just a hub for music and creativity. And I got launched into that scene. And I was like, I've got to figure out how to make something on my own. And when I picked up the banjo, I realized how black of an instrument it really is and how it was stolen. And the style that I'm learning how to play in is called clawhammer, and it's originated in Africa. And a white man went and saw this beautiful art and the way that they were strumming downwards, which isn't normal for a lot of different plucking styles with banjo. And so reclaiming that by teaching myself how to learn how to play, and also showing that folk music, country music isn't just white people's music, was also something else. Like this is also my type of art now.
Well, Tiana, go ahead, talk about it. Talk about it. That's what I'm talking about. I needed you on my team. Where was you at when I need you on my team?
The storytelling piece really, I'm so sorry. The storytelling piece is really awesome to hear you bring up, because I mean, maybe not a newspaper, that awesome freaking entity that West Virginia is so lucky to have, and thank you for doing work on it.
Shout out to Crystal Good, yeah.
But art, like visual art, performance art, musical art, like it's one of the only things that can be communicated regardless of language barrier, regardless of cultural barrier. I mean, the same could be argued about numbers and math, but nobody got time for all those numbers. So art it is.
Way to me that the African American community, they downplay your art, and it's something I feel that sometimes in our own spaces that we don't appreciate it like we should, especially the people who are allowing you to step into their space. Talking about us, we're allowing other people to step into our space and see who we are in all of our glory, and sometimes I don't think it's appreciated the way that it should be. That is the only really big thing and difference that I have with the art in West Virginia. That we can all portray something wonderful and beautiful, but I just don't think that it's reciprocated the way that and I know we are in a safe space, ladies, so you know, I will say the way white people is, the way their things are reciprocated, it just sometimes feels like it's not reciprocated the same way. I don't know.
I think you're right. Especially insofar as we spend a lot more time studying them than they do studying us. So we adapt ourselves to be able to step into their spaces without doing as little damage to ourselves as possible.
Yes.
But there's no doubt that we are damaged in the doing. Yes. And that I think Black women can easily damage each other, because if you're on that social climbing ladder and you're focused on status and influence, you can crush people's dreams, their voice, and in so many ways. I think that's one of the reasons I work to develop my own company, because I saw it happening all around me. And they'll say, not all skin folk are kinfolk. And so this idea of finding your allies or finding those who are like-minded is so critical to our soul survival. That's why I'm loving seeing our young, I'm old now, but when I look at the potential for this kind of connection, and that there's enough people who value that in the market now and will protect it, that gives me a lot of hope, because
Yes.
we've had the opposite. We've had so many things to tear us down, and to separate us. So separating Black women here, this one that does this one does that. I come back. If you've seen, maybe you've seen The Fighting Temptations, with Beyonce and Cuba Gooding Jr. It came to mind when we were talking about this topic, because the woman who gets ostracized for singing in a club, the people in the church won't embrace her anymore. They make her make a choice, as if that's really a choice. What kind of choice is that? So I look, sometimes we strangle the beautiful creative bud that is coming up. How do I not be that person? How do I create a safe space? Well, those are questions. Royce, you got me asking all kinds of questions to myself.
That's an excellent question, though. How do we create safe spaces, and how do we recognize when we've been in this space and we might have harmed one another? We might have harmed a sister that looks different than us. Maybe she presented in a masculine manner. Maybe her skin is darker than ours. Maybe her hair is a different texture. How do we learn to let go of those things? How do we use those moments to build opportunity and to embrace one another? How can we do that in today's society?
Empathy. We need empathy training for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you are not able to put yourself in someone else's shoes while they're telling you the story, even though you haven't been through their circumstance, and also realize you can't fully understand it because you've not been in their circumstance, but you're listening and you're hearing, like, you're not going to be able to grow and hear and help someone and not continue to hurt people. And also learn to put your pride down and be humble when you realize you've overstepped. Oops, ouch, I'm sorry. Let's fix this. Let's have an open-minded conversation with active listening and questions, and listening or asking questions so that you can listen, and not asking questions so that you can respond, being a sponge.
I also think place has a lot to do with it. I mean, no matter how inclusive our, inner circle or workplace tries to be, a lot of times we operate on white ideals and we try to fit ourselves into pre-existing boxes, right? And physical space where we can exist outside of those boxes is so transformational and so healing. And I think that's why the work that Kosh is doing with Black Pride is going to be transformative for communities like ours.
And I think accountability has always been my biggest one. Accountability for ourselves, to start holding ourselves accountable for the things that we have done to harm other Black women, and for others. So many people, they say that they're our allies. They say that they're going to do this. They say that we don't. Oh, I love every sister. Oh, my sister, she's my sister. She's my sister. Until you get into the room with that same said sister and you ignore her. or you sit over here, or you sit over there. I had an experience with Black Policy Day one year, and I did make that comment when I had my chance to speak. How dare we sit up here amongst each other and act like we're better than each other when we're sitting here at this place that is literally called Black Policy Day. For a place for all of these Black people to get together and not and we have the audacity to stick our nose up at another Black person at this day where we're supposed to be celebrating Black people. Where is the hypocrisy and where's the accountability being held? I'm just saying this. Yeah, I get a little passionate, but I'll tell the truth. Amen.
It's hard to collaborate if you're ostracizing someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is. I understand. It's all these things that I'm sitting here looking at, the empathy and being humble in the place, and like I said, accountability. All these things are tied in so strongly together, but are necessary. But people do not practice they don't practice any of these. Being humble has gone so far by the wayside. And empathy, you couldn't tell nobody what is empathy. They look at you like that, like you was asking them who was the first president. I mean, like these are things that I'm amazed that people don't. I know, ladies, but I'm just saying, it amazes me that they don't. It's like this is stuff that you should already know. It's like putting on your drawers. It's like putting on your socks. It's like running your fingers through your head. You should know these things. These empathy and being humble are things that don't cost nothing. Don't cost you a dime, not a penny.
I think Ocean brought up a really good point about accessibility. You shouldn't have to be in the presence of someone and make a mistake in order to learn how to have empathy towards them. Seeking knowledge about someone that you can't identify with, or a situation that you haven't been through before you even come in passing with someone, or maybe hearing about a certain subject and learning more about it so that you can show up to the table already willing to be empathetic towards that person. There's a lot of power to that. But without accessibility, without crossing paths with other people, it makes it a little bit harder for you to really know how to navigate those situations.
Well, I wonder how people in white culture would respond with the situations that we had to go through, or the situations that we find ourselves in. I can't think of the number of times that I've gone into a space and I'm the only whatever. I'm the only woman. I'm the only woman of color. I am, it goes on and on and on. But I think that has a unique strengthening to our personality. How has that played out in your life? I mean, what places or spaces in West Virginia have you had to navigate in those type of scenarios? I've lived in some rural places. I've lived in Pocahontas County, and you could count the Black people there on one hand. And I'm sure that we've all found ourselves in those type of spaces in West Virginia. What kind of impact has that had on your development or your strengthening as a person? How did that develop your leadership?
Well, I would go back to Ocean's follow through with the storytelling. I've learned, I watch myself doing, as a creative artist, I watch myself editing. And I find myself editing in such a way, whether it is for interaction with an audience, the words I use, the timing, rhythm, and phrasing of a thing, so that I am giving my audience, which is often, not always, but often white, the opportunity to be empathetic in reality. Because to simply call them hypocritical is, well, I might recognize that there is hypocrisy. calling it out that way may not actually change behavior. What changes behavior and a sense of kinship building is where they see themselves in that situation, in the story. And they can identify with the characters and the struggle and the conflict in the stories. And whether you're in journalism or you're telling a story, even if the goal is to get everyone to laugh, how are we getting each other to feel the conflict as their own? To place them in the situation, in the story, so that they get around it. They're going to deal. I mean, storytellers have a lot of different ways of doing that. Bringing you in, that this is this, and then you see them lean in, and then their face changes, and you're hoping that you're getting their heart to beat faster. And the story could be about anybody in the whole world at a certain point, and then they see themselves. If they don't see themselves in the story, there's not change. Now, that's true for anybody, white, black, Chinese, anybody. But particularly when we are in the proportions we are in this state, in West Virginia, I go to a school, 90% it's going to be white. If I go to a church, even if it's integrated, even St. Peter Claver in Huntington, got a lot of white folk in there. Now, they got a lot of black folk too, but they got a lot of white folk. And you are looking to build bridges instead of walls. And I think that's when that's what I was hearing out of what you were asking, Royce.
I also think that sometimes, and I don't know, it's like, I feel like sometimes we always end up having to be, I hate being the bigger person, because see, like, I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, like, shit, like sometimes I don't want to have to suck it up, buttercup. Sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I don't. Why do I have to apologize first? Why do like, sometimes it just seems like we're always trying to find a way to appease them and make them easy and make them more comfortable to fit into our space. But no one makes it more comfortable for us to fit into their space. There are times, like I said, when it comes to, my big thing is navigating Black spaces. And that's sad to say. I'm the darkest one in this chat group right now. And it's hard for me to navigate my Black spaces. I am proud of who I am. I've always tried to carry myself in the best light. And at times it's still not good enough. It's not good enough. Am I feminine enough for my Black sisters? Do they want me to be in the room with them? Are they looking at me like I just think that I'm the ticket, or she dresses too risque, or who does she think she is? I was privy to a meeting one time amongst Black women of West Virginia, and we ain't had that group since that last meeting that I had, and it's kind of offensive because it's just like some of the people that were in that group, they just kind of like were looking me up and down, and I'm just like, I don't understand. I love my people. I love being Black. I love my skin tone. Mm-hmm. I love where I'm from. And for my own people to shun me when they know what it's like to be shunned.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's like every day is a competition. Every day is am I going to get it right? Should I take this off? Should I take this off? If I run into a group of Black women, I hope and pray that they see the light that everybody else says they see, because if they see that, then it'll keep them from seeing anything else negative that they find. That's how my mind thinks, So it's like, it's hard for Black women like me to be in Black spaces with Black women who swear up and down that we're all sisters in the name of love, except for some of us.
Right. Right.
And don't scream that she's my sister if we're not all sisters.
Right.
Because I will look at you like my sister. I will always call you sis. I will always say, hey sis, how you doing? I ain't gonna call you auntie. I'm gonna say, hey sis, how you doing? How you doing? That's my sister right there. Oh, Tiana, that's my sister. Tiana, that's my sister. Royce, that's my sister. That's how we do. And we have gotten so far away from that. It's like the white people I have no issue with. They put me on a pedestal, which I don't. I have a thing about that too. I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm not your monkey trophy or anything. I'm not that. Don't do that to me. But just let me be me, enjoy my space, enjoy the fact that I'm allowing you into my space. Don't try to overdo it. I don't want to hear don't try to talk like me, because when you do, I'm going to check you. Don't try to shake your head and snap your fingers, white girl. Don't do it. I'm going to check you. So, I mean, it's like, don't go overboard with it. But that's just me. These are, I can, like I said, I can move and shake with the best of them. But when it comes to who I have the biggest problems with, it is with my own people. And it's always been, and that's the story of a Black person's life. We are so against each other when we're the only group. Every other group is together, Chinese, Indian, even white people. And Black people are the only group that is so divided. I don't get it. And then we go deeper into colorism within the Black community. Like,
yeah. It's exhausting,
yes.
We have to code switch with the white people. Then we get with our own group. We got to figure out how we fit in, how they're going to respond to us. Are they critiquing me for the way I dress, for the way my hair looks, for my color, for whatever, When I was growing up, they had a saying for young girls, oh, she's so fast. That just meant that she was out of her realm, over-sexualized, or just, and those weren't really positive words that we should be saying to one another. So what are ways can we celebrate Black joy and learn to encompass and recognize the gifts that each and every one of us has? What are some ways that we can do that? How are you doing that in your community?
Be the example. Be the example. Be the example that what we're talking about. Everything we're talking about, we have to live it. We have to live it day to day. If you're my sister, then let me know that you're my sister and reach out to me and tell me something positive about myself, because I'm going to tell you something positive about yourself, and lift each other up. And then when you're in spaces that other ones are not allowed to be in, it is your job to help them get into those spaces. It is your job to navigate so they can be allowed in those spaces just as well as you are. That is what we need to start doing, practicing what we preach and standing on what we say. That is a way that we can fix all of this. I'm sorry, my grandfather was a preacher.
Mine too.
You get it on this thing.
Don't apologize. I raised my hand. It's all right.
No, I really think you're right. I mean, when I am afraid, I'm more afraid of Black women than I am anybody else. And when I'm anxious about a program, you're not alone in that. And for whatever reason, the judgments, I could blame a lot of this on religion, which is like, I came back to that film when I looked at how Beyonce was judged in that context, as well as the Cuba's mother, both women. And that was just an obvious Hollywood example of it. But when I think about, I made a list. Okay, let's see if my list is right here. So if you are not light enough, too light, you're not wealthy, you're too savvy, you do drugs, you don't do drugs, you're too clean, you're not clean enough, you talk too properly, you're not pretty. I was called handsome. I've been called handsome Now, I don't know how you feel about that. How should I feel about that? Do I feel welcome in a space where I get called handsome? Now, another person said, I had a classic head or a classic. I mean, this is just odd sorts of things when people call you names that you don't recognize as you. I don't care if I'm not pretty. When you cross a line and call me a handsome woman, that's weird. And this was a good friend of mine. I remember, because they can't say you're not pretty, and that's okay. I knew I wasn't going to get the lead parts and industrials. I'm not ever going to be that kind of marketable. Is another reason that I had to do my own scripts and my own work. So I have a recognition of people. I'd have dark women come up to me in different situations, and I could see that they were trying hard to let me know that they were jealous. You know how we get to be this light? This is not a good reason why we are this light.
No.
Between grandmothers and great grandmothers and old man Mims of Fort Mims, or whoever it was that would, if they would claim those children, the stigma that goes with these different things in my list. Oh yeah, because you can't cook. Oh, you can't drive. Oh, you don't know how to. You're too weak to do this. You're too. I mean, my list just went on and on and on. And you look at this navigating space, and sometimes Black women are the worst of being judgmental and harsh and intolerant. I don't know that I have an answer to any of that, except to keep going back into my own sense of identity and the strength of what my calling is. And to come back to that calling. And Kasha, it's just so, it's beautiful that you are able to stay in that energy and to stay there. Some of our beautiful people in their lives over this.
Yes. Yes. Tiara, you had your hand up, and then Ocean, you had your hand up after that.
I was just going to ask Ocean, as an educator, what their opinion was.
Well, that's actually kind of why I had my hand up. I think, well, first of all, as Black women, as Black people, we are not responsible for educating our white counterparts, right? But by making the decision to live or stay in West Virginia and accept other West Virginians as our friends and peers and acquaintances, we kind of implicitly take on a little bit of that responsibility, because what's the alternative, right? And meeting them where they are kind of automatically assigns you that education responsibility. Also, education is, internalized ideologies are kind of disbanded and unlearned by exposure. And who is the exposure? We are the exposure. So we are at the same time the educators and the educational tool, which is a very interesting position for us in West Virginia. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've had two friends recently who aren't the same race as me ask me questions. One was telling what their own friend who's racist, and another who just bluntly asked me, how do I walk in this space and make sure that other people who look like you feel seen by me? And I told both of them by their heart posture and their intentions. Being inquisitive and asking questions, being okay with being uncomfortable. And then as the educator yourself, like you said, Ocean, you do take on that responsibility to a degree. If you're wanting to be around that person, if you're wanting to share space with that person in particular, you're not the educator for all white people in West Virginia or wherever you're at. But if that's a person that you want to be in your life and in your circle, or want to share space with, then you just have to meet them where you're at, like you said. And allow them to know that you are a safe space for them to come and ask those questions too. Because if someone's ignorant about something, then you can't expect them to know it beforehand. But if they're genuinely engaging with you to have a level of understanding with you, then being kind enough to allow them to mess up and stumble and fall. Because I came from a space where I worked in an LGBTQ plus community, and I had a lot of questions and had a lot of ignorance, and I've messed up so many different times, but everyone was so kind to me and held space for me and had patience with me. And I don't want to ever take that away from anyone who actually wants to grow closer to me and my people.
Yeah,
Sometimes
absolutely.
it's hard to navigate that.
Yeah, it's not easy at all.
Yeah,
No, but that's like where that forgiveness, kindness, and what you want, where your intentions are, comes from. You just have to figure out what you want at the end of the day. Nothing's easy, especially if it's worth having most of the time.
And if you're not feeling like it, just tell them that the Google machine exists.
Period. Yeah.
like, well, see, like, okay, being the the president of an organization, the founder, and all whatnot, I've been told several times, because before I started this organization, I had a little thing called the undeniable truth. And I'd get on there and I'd just tell everybody the tea and what you wanted to hear and how it needed to be. And I told you what I felt that you needed to hear. But then, when I started the organization, everybody said, oh, well, you need to calm down. You need to not be so loud. You need to not do this. Black women don't do this. Black women don't do that. So it's just so hard to navigate that when you're constantly told how you should be. And then you start feeling like, oh, well, now they're walking all over top of me because I've had to push myself and who I am to the side to make room for them. If I've always been told, there's got to be a point of time when you have to stop teaching and know that you're not going to pass this class, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There has to be a time when you have to know, look, I've taught you and I've taught you and I taught you. Evidently, you're not teachable. Except for those teachers in the room and coaches, we know that at times some people aren't teachable. It just is what it is. And I understand, Tiana, what you said, but sometimes there are people that I've had people that are allies that have tried to get in, they wanted to be a part of West Virginia Black Pride, and they did not understand Black spaces. And no matter how many times I tried to be polite about it and sugarcoat it, and that was another thing. Here I was sugarcoating the Black space for white people.
That's why I said you're not the educator for everyone in the room. And it's really is a one-on-one and how much you have the capacity for.
Yeah.
Some people, like you said, are disqualified.
Yeah. But don't you feel that as a Black woman, that they always feel that it's your responsibility, even when you know that it's not your responsibility? Like, that it's not your responsibility to teach and educate everybody. But then if you don't tell them, or if you don't educate them, then they fall on the lines of saying, well, I didn't know. And then they look at you like you're stupid. And it's like, well, those are things you should know. Or I did educate you. I shouldn't have to get an elaborate thing. Or why can't you use Google? Everybody else does.
Or why didn't you make an effort to learn? When some of these shootings of people went on within our community and people were feeling remorse and they felt like they wanted to do something. I was exhausted from turning down invitations to teach and lead, educate people. I'm like, I can't educate you about every Black experience. All I can educate you on right now is that we're hurt, we're tired, and we're troubled. Mm-hmm. What are you doing in your space to make yourself aware? What are you doing in your space to learn about these troubles before it gets to this point? Are you actually listening to communities when they speak up? Which leads me to my next question.
Royce. Yeah. Real quick, because Tiana, I love you and I love your space. I'm so inquisitive because it's like you have been in the space that I have not been privy to. And I can tell that just by the way you talk and the way you carrying yourself. I know that I haven't been privy to those spaces because even with it being Black by God in the magazine and stuff, I still haven't been privy to a lot of those spaces either. but and I love your outlook on that. And I'm trying to better understand. I'm trying to better understand that outlook because you're so calm, cool, and collective with it when I am so at rage with it. It's I'm trying to, I'm like, I'm not gonna give him no chance. I'm not gonna do this. I've done did this. And it's like, but you're so calm and cool with that. And I'm just like, please teach, please teach.
I have a phrase, if it takes my peace from me, then it's not worth my time. And so anything that gets me to an elevated level, I quickly exit stage left. And metaphorically or physically, I will get up and leave a space if I feel as though it's not safe for me. And I will, politely remove myself from people that I was once attached to if they aren't teachable, if I have chosen them as someone that I'm going to pour education into. And I set boundaries as well, because I know I'm only one person and I can only help so many people that want to understand. So setting those boundaries with myself and others, and also doing a lot of self-care, keeps me like at a real low baseline and
I like that self-care, girl. I'm on that journey right now.
it's
I-
the best.
I had to take some time for you ladies to know I did have to take some time from the center to reevaluate myself, because that's why I said to Royce, this would be a perfect conversation today, because I have been put so high on this pedestal that it was too much for me to handle at one point in time, and I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Breathing
I
is
couldn't
good.
breathe, and I literally found myself laying in my bed and could not breathe, and it was so much on me, and it was like everybody was just expecting so much from me, and I'm just little old me. I'm not.
You got to fill yourself back up with whatever gives you that energy for you.
Yeah, I'm not the best. I'm not the spokesmodel for Black trans women. I just want to carry myself with dignity and grace. And it's like people put so much on you as a Black woman, and it's like, and they tell you that too. Black women are so strong. Black women are so strong. It beats you down so much that when you feel that you're not strong, you just, I just break. So this is the first time I broke, and I was so glad to have this talk and discussion with you guys, because I ain't really had nobody to talk to about it, and because I don't have it, I'm one of my kind. I'm one of my kind. I don't have a lot of people to talk to. I don't have a lot of Black girls like me to talk to. I'm the one that they do want to look up to. So who does the person that they look up to talk to? It's
That's
like
a lot.
Well, I really appreciate your words of wisdom, Tiara. I am 60 years old, and I am just now learning to set boundaries for certain people in my life, and to say, no, I don't have to do that. I can step away from that. That's
Yes.
hurtful to me, and it doesn't serve me any joy or any purpose to be there. So I'm going to
You need
remove
somebody else
myself
to do
from the
it.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody else
So
to do it.
I know that the younger generation is doing that, and that it's instilled in you. I feel like as an older person, it was not always instilled in us to do that. Not necessarily in my family.
Well, it certainly was in my family. I understand the no boundaries. Learning how to put up boundaries has been one of the biggest adult jobs I've had. I turned 69 this year.
No way.
And I am of that generation that was taught you don't have permission to have boundaries. Boundaries. Those are for privileged people. That is an elite thing. Those are what, yeah. So I had stepped out of my lane to even think of it. And in fact, one of my colleagues called my mother Mama No Doors, because she never shut her door. When she came to live with me, I had to help her learn to shut her door, not just for her, but for the whole household.
Yeah.
That there's a point of privacy that everybody needs. You know that phrase, a room of one's own? Remember? That came up when I was old, but it was a good phrase. And it's part of the beginning of self-care. It's the first, I think, recognition of self-care in my generation was finding that room of one's own where you can break down. And that's why I want to say we have been called, I mean, gosh, I'm right with you with this strong thing. We've been called so many different names, harpies. If you are strong, then you are some kind of bee. If you are kind, you're a pushover. If you are weak, you are, and on with those things. We have to be our authentic selves in our own space. And the right people will come to give you that support when you when you have that recognition. And I say that because what I tell this to all my students now. Who's your friend? Or I ask them this question, who's your friend? How can you tell somebody's a friend? Not an acquaintance, not a colleague, not a work person. And I keep coming back to this because of my experience. A friend is somebody who always makes you feel bigger, able, better, good. A friend is not going to make you feel small, diminished, unheard, unseen. That may be a colleague, an acquaintance, but they're not your friend. And a lot of times, I think, as Black women, we have hoped so hard that this person is our friend that we have taken a lot of abuse before we realize we have to put up Tiara's boundary and say, no, you don't get to come to this special place. You don't get to be that intimate and do that kind of damage. Not anymore. And that takes courage. And you have to have faith that you're going to find those actual friends. But until we come to that point, we might not think we need them.
I like that TS courage. We're gonna patent that one.
So where are some of the places that you experience Black joy or you see Black joy in West Virginia?
I went to a Juneteenth farm to table event recently at the Capitol Market in Charleston. And after each dish, we talked about the local Black farmers that source the food for the event. It was hosted by Chef Key, who's a Black chef here in Charleston. So events are, I don't know any specific hubs in West Virginia, but I keep stumbling upon these wonderful events, Multifest, that really allow me to experience Black joy. And when I left the Juneteenth farm to table event, I just felt so energized and was talking to my friend. I was like, we need more stuff like this. Or like, we need more Black activities. We need more Black activities in Charleston year round, not just during Juneteenth. And in West Virginia in general. So that's where I'm finding my joy, is when I see my people heading events and also educating others and celebrating each other. Like, not educating in the sense of educating white people, but just educating each other about the agricultural population that we have that are Black here, right here in West Virginia and in Appalachia in general. That's where I find my Black joy, in West Virginia.
See, that's the Black joy that you get to navigate that some of us can't navigate and don't get to navigate. There's a lot of things, like we have white parties, we have Juneteenth, we have all these things, but Black LGBTQ plus persons don't get to share that same Black joy. Sometimes we have to closet or dummy down who we are in order to try to get that Black joy. I love to be in all those spaces that you have been in, but then sometimes it's like we don't have a space, so we just make our own. You know, and like I said, I would love to tell stories about Black joy and being able to be happy amongst my people. But sorry, I ain't been able to have one of those. at all.
Please let me know the next time you're in Charleston, because I'd
It's
love to
coming.
beside
I
me
live in
at
Charleston. Like
well,
I
come
live in
back
Charleston.
to visit, and I'll come to visit you, because I'd love to be at any event with you, and I hope that I can help you experience some Black joy, because I think you
I
deserve to
love
be
it.
anywhere that you want to be at.
I'm usually with what, like only time like I went to the regatta, the Sternal Regatta, and I was invited by my white friends. I've seen Chef Key. We ate, we talked, we chat. She was like, "Oh, I can't believe you're up here." She whatnot. But it was the fact that I wasn't with my Black friends. I don't have any Black sisters that want to do the things that I want to do, like go to the regatta and sit up in the VIP booth and just watch things from a different perspective or things like that. They don't want to do that.
I was with white people at the farm to table event. I was with,
See,
there was mostly white people there, but I still found that joy for myself. I didn't have, you know what I mean? Like I was in the moment and just finding that for myself. I was very disappointed that there weren't more Black people there in attendance, and I have no idea why, whether it was the cost, whether they didn't want to come to support, and I won't know, right? Unless I go and survey the area. But I do know that I can still experience that joy regardless of what anyone has to say, as long as I sit there and tell myself this is for me, this is my moment, this is healing me and the parts of me that lack. So that's what matters. I was sitting there with all my white friends, someone beside me was a Colombian, but regardless, like you can still experience that joy if you're open to receiving it, and exclude all of the other things that are damaging, and they are there, but still allowing that healing to come in from the fact that you're in that space. Because I've learned, because I've been excluded, because I've been hurt so many times by so many awful people being from Southern West Virginia, calling me out of my name. If I was so focused on what someone else had to say about me or how someone perceived me, I would not enjoy any moment at all. So that's where I reclaimed a lot of my power and have been really healing myself. And I hate that you're experiencing so much pain, but like you have so much more power than you're giving yourself, for real. You really do.
Claiming your own joy. That Tiara, go girl, put that on your t-shirt.
Tiara is speaking knowledge over here. When you get beat down, Tiara, when you get beat down with and this is kind of Royce and I think you guys and Eileen, you can understand. I don't know if because this is probably around y'all's era, because I have older grandparents, and they would always say, be humble. Every time you try to step up and do something, it's always be humble. And it was always like that little Bible verse, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, hide it under a bushel, no. But it seemed like that's all they wanted you to do. You cannot ever, ever, ever be too loud. They didn't want you to have the new Pentecostal music. They wanted you to go back to the days where they was playing only on the piano, singing the old rugged cross, and everybody being somber. That they didn't want your light to shine. They didn't want you to be a beacon of hope or anything like that. So sometimes, and if I have people like you around, it makes it easy for other people to navigate those spaces. So maybe we need to start as Black women trying to be there for other Black women to help them get through these spaces. Because if I had someone like you, Tiana, I would be able to say, oh my gosh, I went to this farm to table event with my sister, and it was great, and we had a good time. I wish we would have seen some more of our people there. But you know what? The next time, we just gonna go out here, and girl, we gonna recruit some people. If they ain't
exactly, yes, reclaim the spaces, and you do. You're my friend. I mean, I'm claiming you as a friend right now, so you have somebody like me in your corner.
So I have learned, one thing that I have learned in my life is I try to do what makes me happy, even though it might cause me to seem ostracized or to step out of bounds. When I was in 5th and 6th grade, I wanted to play basketball. They didn't have a girls' basketball team. I tried out for the boys' basketball team. And I know when I went home, my dad was like, what are you thinking? But that's me. I don't care what other people were thinking. I wanted to try something new. I didn't care if I was good or bad. I just wanted to try it. I tried it. I never became a great basketball player. I played all the way through high school, but it was something that I could do, and it gave me joy.
So you made the team?
I made the team, and I got
Yes.
4 other girls to try out with me because I was a little afraid, you know.
You do.
But
You bring your girlfriends with you. That's what
That's
I'm
it.
doing. Bring
That's
us with
it.
you.
and I always seem to have that step out of my comfort zone value about myself, to try things, even if there's no one like me or no one who looks like me that's there in that space. I'm not afraid to try something. And that's what brings me joy. And I try to instill that into any younger person that I see. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to step out and take a chance. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So what? You tried it. Do something else. Try something else.
Ocean, I haven't heard you. Where are you at?
Um, so I can relate a lot of what Tiara and Kasha have been saying. Like Tiara, I really like to seek out places that already have Black joy and create my own, because like Kasha said, a lot of times I don't feel welcome in Black spaces. I mean, it's no secret that Black communities are just riddled with homophobic and transphobic beliefs and values. And right now I look pretty femme. I look like a Black girl, right? But once fall hits, once it gets below like 70, I'm going full Black boy mode, right? So during the summer, it's a little bit easier for me to navigate those spaces, but I fall into the non-binary / genderqueer. I'm not really sure. It's kind of up in the air still, but I'm comfortable in my fluidity, and a lot of Black people that I meet in those spaces are not comfortable with my fluidity. So I really focus on creating my own Black joy and inviting other Black people to participate in my Black joy that I am cultivating.
I love it.
I love it. I love this. I mean, and I am finding I'm in love with each of you. The women I portray have taught me. I don't know if you've seen any of the Chautauqua work, but when I look at the women, Ethel Waters, these are people who lived on the edge of what was right or wrong in their society at the time, all kinds of different reasons. I step into those shoes. I feel some of their sorrow and challenge and joy. There are pictures of her dressed as a man that people will use. There are the different stories coming from that time period of so much experimentation in sexual liaisons, that there were the church felt redeemed after her. I don't know, when did she turn? I don't know. Well, anyway, looking back at our ancestors and the complexities of their lives has given me joy, because I see the depth of that challenge. And so them understanding themselves, them being themselves in spite of everything. Eslanda Robeson, if you don't know her, you should. Paul Robeson's wife. I do Elizabeth Catlett now. Elizabeth Catlett was one of those early artists who sculpted Black women with beauty and dignity in a time when nobody saw that in public. It was something that she brought, Black is beautiful, to the table. And the phrase started to hang with her work. She was ostracized. When I hear their stories and I'm able to bring their stories to people who don't know them, that brings me not only joy, but that deepening sense of identity. And not everybody always knew where they stood. And it was okay. Every family had people in it of this fluid nature. But I look at Black women coming out of the war, when I do Harriet Tubman, are you going to decide which child gets to eat based on what color they are or who their daddy is? If the children come to the table, you're going to love them. You're going to give them what you can. You're going to make the best world possible for them. And when I saw that energy, I realized that that's part of what our DNA really is. And when we find our own authentic love for ourselves and our people, it's in that core, because we all belong at the table. And and to have left any of us out is cruel. So my joy in looking back is also to bring those stories forward today, because their stories are just as powerful when we bring them out of the shadow.
With y'all's knowledge today, I'm so impressed. Well, I know we have knowledge, but y'all are just dropping some bombs today. I got a whole page full of everything. Thank you. I feel like I'm in school. I'm sitting right here. I'm taking notes. I'm telling you, because honestly, this is something that I've been waiting for a long time. Just hearing, just being able to talk with Black women that could tell me things. You know how many times I have to teach somebody how to walk in heels, or I have to teach somebody about makeup? I sit at my mother's table and I taught them all about how to do this. But it's just like nobody wants to sit around and just talk to me or talk to other people who are not like them. They don't want to sit around and talk to LGBTQ plus women. And it seems, and if they do, it's on a nasty, perverted tip. And it just gets tiresome to always feel like I have to dress like Dorothy from the Golden Girls. I prefer to dress like Blanche. Sorry. I mean, like, what is wrong with that? Like, I mean, like, thank you, ladies. It's been, yeah, this is exactly what is needed. And I pledge to each and every one of you that I will practice what I preach, that I will try, Tiana, to find a space that makes me smile every day and try to own it. Regardless if it's meant for me or not. I forgot that about me. So thank you for reminding me that I am still that girl. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Wait a minute. How do you do that? What is it? What's it? Wait, what are you doing there? I can't quite. Oh, it's this way. Okay.
Thumbs up.
Oh no, thumbs up.
No, thumbs down. Thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
This is the different generations.
It works.
Oh shoot. Okay, come on, Oceana. This is teach the old lady something. There we go. Oh, it's so pretty the way you do it. Wait a minute. Okay, you got this.
Which one is this? Wait, hold on. Wait.
Oh,
Yes.
That's
oh my goodness. Okay. I
we
love
just
y'all.
like we just
You made me smile today. I was so nervous about what do I know about any of this, and I just have enjoyed you so much, each of you. Yay, Royce, yay.
Any other closing thoughts?
Yes. No. Just thank you, Royce, for. We couldn't ask for a better moderator today. I appreciate you for being you, for stepping up to the plate to moderate us group of women, us group of Black women, us group of strong Black women, even if we sometimes ain't strong. But I appreciate you, because sometimes I just need to sit down and kick off these stilettos and put on these ugly flip-flops that are fuzzy. Okay. Sometimes, Oceana, I don't look like an angel. Sometimes I look like Rosie the Riveter. Okay.
I don't believe that.
Well, ladies, I've met each of you in different spaces, in different places. And I hope to spend time with all of you in a new space. Tiara, I have not spent physical time with you yet, but I do look forward to that. And I have loved our time together. And I love the organic nature of our conversation and just the organic way that it ended with us learning from each other how to put the heart symbol into our conversation and into our life. On behalf of Oceana, Eileen, Kasha, and Tierra, and myself, thank you for listening to Spilling to the Black Girl Tea. We invite you to check out our other video episodes on the YouTube channel for Justice and Jubilee and podcast episodes on Accidental Tomatoes.